Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the GAVS Technologies webinar, Demystifying Digital Transformation. My name is Kerrie Hoffman. I am a strategic advisor for GAVS Technologies and your host for today. The pace of business continues to accelerate, largely driven by an exponential growth in technology. The need for companies and leaders to get into digital flow is critical, not only for continued growth, but also as table stakes to stay relevant in today's world. Before companies can move into digital flows or even believe it's something they need to do, it's important to understand digital transformation. I had a sneak preview of today's content, and I'm very excited that you are joining us today to participate. If you would like to ask a question, please use the questions panel, which is likely located on the right side of your screen. If you don't see the question panel, it may be minimized. Simply click on the arrow on the top of the icon ribbon to open. You can type your questions into the question panel at any time during the broadcast today, and we will address as many questions as possible after the presentation. Once again, I'm Kerrie Hoffman, Strategic Advisor for GAVS Technologies and your host for this webinar. I am a serial entrepreneur and freelancer. In addition to my role at GAVS, I am owner of Focal Point Business Coaching for small and mid-sized businesses and co-founder and principal for Get Digital Velocity, enabling large enterprises to move to frictionless business. I specialize in business growth and I am passionate about digital acceleration. I have over 30 years of corporate experience in multiple industries and functions, including business unit CIO for several business units at Johnson & Johnson and Johnson Controls. I also held several roles at Aurora Healthcare. It is my pleasure to welcome our speaker for today, Shri Chaganty. Shri is CTO for GAVS Technologies. Shri's prior role was CTO and co-founder of AppInsure, a Silicon Valley-based startup, which is now part of GAVS. Shri has worked in the area of data communications and internet technologies for the past 35 years and introduced more than a dozen products into the US, Japanese, and European markets. Previously, Shri was CEO and founder of CES, delivering global consulting and IT services and solutions. CES licensed IP software cores in markets such as wireless, networking, and application integration, and specialized in resolving mission-critical application performance problems in virtualized computing. Shri was also co-founder and chief technology officer of Holentech Corporation, San Jose. Holentech introduced web switching and other internet infrastructure products to worldwide markets. Prior to founding Holentech, Shri was Director of Software at the Data Communication Systems Division of NEC America. Shri's corporate experience also includes GTE and Burroughs. Shri holds 5 patents in the area of high availability and clustering, as well as an MS in computer engineering from Drexel University. So welcome, Shri.
Thank you, Kerrie. That makes me feel very old, but that's a great introduction, and thanks for sharing your thoughts. Thank you and greetings for everyone who is in attendance. As Kerrie introduced me, I'm Shri Chaganty, CTO of GAVS, and allow me to start with a brief introduction to GAVS and about this webinar. GAVS has been a pioneer in introducing AI-driven machine learning solutions working with IIT Chennai for digital transformation well before those terms became popular and fashionable. With global presence and Fortune 500 customers, GAVS is continuing to innovate and provide solutions promoting AI ops and digital transformation. Our webinar today is not a sales pitch. It's an informational webinar, the first one in the series of such informational webinars that GAVS intends to present focusing on our learnings and vision, and soliciting your input and opinions about the technology. As such, this would be a very interactive webinar with 4 polls during the course of the webinar. After the webinar ends with the QA session, you will be asked to participate in a survey regarding the webinar. Please participate in that survey as your input will guide us on the topics we need to cover in the series. So, what is digital transformation? Digital transformation means using digital technologies to do something better or to create that did not exist previously. Digital transformation has been in place since digital computers came into existence. Right. So digital transformation means using digital technologies to do something better or to create something that did not exist previously. Digital transformation has been there in place since the invention of digital computers. For example, when the mechanical cash registers were replaced with computerized cash registers, that was the start of the digital transformation. But the technologies available today are obviously far better and more powerful that such transformation moved from an evolution stage to a revolution stage. A revolution to provide the most satisfying experience to the customers, whether they be internal customers or external customers. To accomplish that enhanced customer experience, existing processes and operations need to be transformed, enhanced, and new ones have to be defined that take advantage of emerging technologies. All of these to provide better insights into how well the customer, whether an internal customer or an external customer, is being served. Such a change in operations will impact in a positive way the productivity of the organization, empowers the employees to innovate, which demands transparency. Naturally, innovation within an organization translates into new products and services and more engaged customers, which again will feed back into how to operate. Operations can be optimized and enhanced. All of this theory, just take an example of Google. Google stands as a shining example. Just think how many products and services we use from Google today, with or without knowing about them. Ostensibly a search engine company that is only few years old. So what is driving this digital transformation? Simple answer is you and I. You and I want every transaction we involve in to be as smartphone-like as possible. We embraced Uber and Lyft, Airbnb, online banking, and anything, everything that met our demand. I want it now. That same you and I are now turning into our workplaces and demanding such customer experience with all transactions within our organization. Why? Because we want to be more productive. Our organizations are asking us to be more productive in order to provide solutions to our organization's customer that will encourage customer engagement and loyalty. For you and I to be more productive, we want to be empowered to innovate, fail fast and recover, be transparent in pushing the envelope without sacrificing the security aspects of those served, being served, and those that are serving. All of this requires not just new hardware or software. This requires optimized, enhanced, and new business processes and operations that will maximize the return on the investment in these technologies that we need to make the change happen, the change to serve the customer better, to meet the customer expectations, whether the customer is an external customer or an internal customer. So you might ask, what is enabling this digital transformation? Earlier on, I said digital transformation has been in place since digital computers were invented. But the technologies available today are obviously far better and more powerful that such transformation is moved from evolution to revolution stage. In what way, you may ask? Just look. Between Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, Oracle, Salesforce, just to mention the few, the magnitude of new compute power provided to the world annually is staggering. Don't forget the massive amount of compute power that resides in your hand or in your pocket as your cell phone or a tablet. Your smartphone is millions of times more powerful than all of NASA's combined computing in 1969. That's when we landed on the moon, by the way. Along with the massive amounts of cheap compute power, staggering amounts of almost free hard disk drive space is being deployed in all these data centers. All the data that is stored to be analyzed with massive amounts of compute power that we have. GPS, localization, hyperlocalization. We're essentially wiring up the entire planet and everything on it. And if anything can have a microprocessor embedded in it, it will. And if it has a microprocessor in it, it is going to collect data. If it is going to collect data, it is going to send the data. It is going to be connected to the net. So net and net, we are basically taking everything and we are connecting it. And now the ubiquity of compute and connectivity is allowing us to take this data and ingest it from almost every corner of the world, every corner of this planet. We are transforming this planet into a living organism of data. That living organism of data is being helped by machine learning to analyze that big amounts of data that is being collected. And now machines are talking to machines, eliminating the weakest link, that is people, taking people out of the loop because people are the weakest link in our business processes. All these things, these enablers are helping us to move into a real-time customer experience that is going to be meeting the expectations of I need it now. And these are all the enablers that are happening. So let's go to our second poll, and hopefully I'll be successful here. We would like you to share with us as to where your organization is in the digital transformation journey. So please participate in our second poll, and I'm launching the poll. You'll have 1 minute, and please participate and provide as to where you see your organization is in terms of this digital transformation. We got another 30 seconds to go. And I see very active participation. Almost 50% of you have participated who are attending, and would encourage others to do as well, because you would then see how your peers are looking at in terms of where they are. So I'm closing the poll right now, and will be sharing the results with you. As you can see, almost 50% of those who responded, 45%, are saying that they've started the initiatives. That is in line with what we see in the industry, because the leadership in majority of the organization acknowledge the need, and for those of the 25%, they will soon, because the need to digitally transform has been recognized as a need by the leadership and by the organizations, because they're seeing that happening around them. So that's great. I'm hiding the results and moving forward. And then again, we will share all of this with you eventually. Now, what does this digital transformation, what kind of impact does it have on the IT operations? Digital transformation touches all aspects of the business, no doubt about it. The most impact is felt in the IT operations. The reason is obvious. For reinventing and creating new processes, we need to adopt new technologies. So let us see how IT operations is affected by the plethora of technological advances that facilitate digital transformation. First, to begin with, the application architectures that support a quick turnaround of solution development have migrated from monolithic to microservices architecture. Second, we're moving into a continuous integration and delivery model so that we can put whatever code we are developing into production as soon as possible and to cut short the QA cycles. Third, there is an abundance of choice of languages that are evolved to meet the different needs of these development activities of the software, that to meet the delivery model so that we can and provide that continuous integration and delivery. Fourth, and importantly, the packaging and the delivery of the application has dramatically moved into real time with containerization. And everything now has become virtual because the proliferation of the data structures to meet the data lakes or the big data that is being collected is now being supported by everything that is virtualized. Your compute is virtualized, your storage is virtualized, your network is virtualized. Why? Because we want these resources to be available for that continuous delivery. Finally, cloudification has become norm of our business process. All of these advances on how we develop software and deploy it into production has a direct impact on IT operations that need to support such continuous technology shifts. Almost it has become a continuous shift, has become more continuous compared to the past. And IT operations have to support that. And in the process, they have struggles. And as you can rightly imagine, IT operations is constantly involved in issues and struggles to support the shifts we are seeing in the technology of software development. And those struggles have a direct impact on the bottom line. You hear about outages in Amazon or Azure or security breaches at Target or other big organizations. Those stories draw attention and media is after it. But within organization, an application downtime in this digital age has a significant impact on the bottom line. As you can see, for the Fortune 1000 firms, an application downtime cost is anywhere between $1.25 billion to $2.5 billion per year. And outages put organizations in a crisis mode. And 60% of the companies are reporting that it takes 15 minutes at least for them to identify that there is an outage. Forget about identifying the cause of an outage. Just to realize that an outage has occurred. If it takes 15 minutes, just imagine the customer experience that we've been talking about earlier on. I always say this, if you click on Google and the Google doesn't show up, the web page doesn't show up, the search page doesn't show up, you will go and check your wireless router to see if it is running, if it is working or not. You will never doubt that google.com is down. That is the power, that is the expectation of the customer. And 60% of the companies taking 15 minutes to identify that there is an outage, and you as a user of Google turning around and expecting the same kind of service for your applications that you're using in your daily life for your company's benefit is unimaginable. There's a big gap that we need to bridge there. All these outages will put, the reason for many of these outages is the repetitive problems and the issues keep IT organizations with no room to innovate or be proactive in adopting new technologies. The bigger the organization, the longer is the arc of adoption. The longer the arc is a reflection on the time it takes for these organizations to be digitally transformed. Modern enterprises, IT operations must, as a first step, focus on no outages. The target should be to eliminate outages, zero outages, because they cannot afford to have any if they want to progress digitally being transformed. With that, let's go into our third poll, last but one. What do you think is the biggest challenge that is hindering your organization to fully embrace digital transformation? I'm launching the poll, and you have 1 minute for this poll. Please participate. Is it lack of skill set? Is it cultural resistance? Do you have security concerns in your organization? Or is it the legacy technology that is basically stopping your organization from adopting this digital transformation? Or in most of the cases I've encountered, not knowing where to start. So please do participate in the poll and give us your inputs based on your experience or your knowledge of the industry. Definitely appreciate. What encourages me is that the participation in these polls is pretty high. I see almost everybody trying to participate, and I really like that when participants seriously take my interactive statement as seriously as you are all. Thank you for that. So we'll be closing this poll in about 10 seconds, and then we'll move on with the presentation after I share the results of the poll with you. All right, now it's time for me to close the poll and share the results with you. As you can see, lack of skill set, which is one couple of years ago, I've seen that lack of skill set as being the top for people to even understand what digital transformation is. But the problem I'm seeing, which is actually reflected in this poll results, is people not knowing how to transform their legacy technology. So they're blaming the legacy technology, but both legacy technology and not knowing where to start are the two, if you combine them together, are the two major reasons that many organizations are facing in terms of digital transformation. And those that have tried because they did not provide enough time and understanding of what they actually had failed in their initiatives because they did not spend enough time to understand and discover what they have. So thank you again for participating in that poll. And moving forward, let's now see what it takes for organization to start this journey towards no outages or zero outages. For any change we want to bring about, we need to know what to change, right? Similarly, in IT operations, we need to know what is running in our environments, where, when, how, who is using it. Earlier on, I said those are the initiatives that failed in digital transformation, failed because there was no understanding of what they had. So they failed to understand what is in existence and how it could be transformed. So the first thing we require is discovery. Discover what you have. Discover who is using it. Discover what is supporting it. Discover when it is being used. Discover how it is being used. Once we discover our IT landscape, the next thing is we need to analyze if we are doing enough monitoring of that IT landscape. Are we monitoring what needs to be monitored? And if we have instrumented our IT landscape to monitor the important pieces that need to be monitored, next comes the ability to analyze that data. Are we analyzing the data that we're collecting? We do have digital information from monitoring. Are we distilling digital intelligence out of that information? Are we actually creating, identifying through this analysis, the patterns of events, patterns of outages, patterns of usages, patterns of application uh, 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 establishment, proliferation of applications? Once we can identify those patterns of events, we can then predict how those events are going to impact the IT landscape. Then we will be equipped to predict the potential outages. And when we are equipped with identifying when potential outages can happen, we can put in remediations that can make autonomous operations, remediate before something goes wrong. All of this will sound pretty simple to say, but just look at what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being able to discover the applications, their topology mapping, how those applications topology is changing in this continuous integration, continuous delivery mode in real time. Looking at all of the structured and unstructured logs, KPIs, events, alarms that are being collected by fully monitored, fully instrumented to monitor the IT landscape. And taking all of those events, being able to correlate them, those alerts, those exceptions, being able to correlate them, being able to make sense of those events and create relationships between those events so that we could nullify the noise, filter those so that we can identify the actual events, so that we could, through our learning processes, whether they're supervised or unsupervised, machine learning, deep learning, whatever might be, or human learning, identify the root cause of such events happening. And then once we identify the root cause, we'll have actionable insights so that we could actually go in and automate the remediation process so that the systems can self-heal, the processes can self-heal, and will continuously improve that learning and intelligence process so that this self-healing process becomes a continuous integrated delivery system. This is what is involved in making an organization zero outages organization. We need to be able to discover, monitor, analyze, predict, remediate. And it requires humongous amount of processing power, humongous amount of learning power, humongous amount of remediation intelligence. And all of that is possible today with the advances in technology, with artificial intelligence, with machine learning, and with unsupervised remediation processes that could be put in place. With that, let me go to the last poll of the webinar. In your opinion, what do you think is the most important aspect for your organization to be able to successfully transform digitally? What is the most important thing? Is it the customer experience needs, or understanding your own business processes, which has not been done yet? Is the zero outage, or having a clear picture of the roadmap of how this transformation is going to happen? Again, we got about 40 seconds left for this poll. And as you've done in the last at least 2 polls, the first one didn't work. Would appreciate your participation, because all of your experience and insights into what's happening within your organizations or within your industry sector is how innovative organizations like GAVS will be addressing the solutions for future. We got about 15 more seconds to close this. And again, thank you very much in terms of the participation. Very active participation across the board. Thank you very much for that. And I'll be closing the poll right now and sharing the results with you. As you can see, the customer experience and needs is what is driving digital transformation. And you all agree that within your organizations, the customer experience and needs. And if you look at it, almost the next three, understanding your own business process, the discovery of your own business process, of course, is required in order to contribute to this customer experience enhancements. Customer could be an external customer, customer could be an internal customer. Zero outages and clear picture of the roadmap as to how we're going to transform are equally important. But the paramount for digital transformation, the important aspect is the customer experience. The significance of customer experience in digital transformation cannot be undermined and cannot be ignored. Thanks again for participating in all the 3 polls, but the first one, sorry about that. So now I have a couple of slides that I would like to focus on what GAV is doing in helping our customers with zero outages. I want to introduce you to what GAVS has to offer as a solution for organizations to drive towards zero outages. GAVS offers zero incident framework. ZIF platform incorporates artificial intelligence and machine learning technologies for proactively detecting potential outages and remediate them even before they pop up. The objective of the platform is to help enterprises become zero incident enterprises. Let me be quick to jump in and clarify what we mean by zero incidents. Zero incidents does not mean that there would be no incidents. The goal is to zero those incidents that are repetitive in nature and cause outages, so that we can focus on new challenges and address them, eventually moving the organization to a zero outage condition by being able to predict and remediate issues before they become outage causing incidents. That's the goal of the ZIF platform and our drive towards zero outages. Quickly, in my last slide of presentation, let me focus on the features of the zero incident framework. ZIF encompasses the major aspects we discussed earlier on that are required to accomplish no outages scenario. ZIF includes a discovery component that auto discovers all of your applications, auto discovers all users of your applications, and in real time maps the topology of your applications as they sprawl and grow. It includes a monitoring aspect, providing you a full stack visibility, detecting and giving you an end-to-end visibility, detecting the anomalies, and providing you the temperature of your applications and user experience through the indices that take multiple monitored components into it and provide an algorithmically coming up with an index. ZIF includes the analyze aspect we talked about that can ingest the data, not just from GIF's discovery and monitoring components, but from any monitoring tool that's out there, being able to ingest the data and being able to filter that data so that that information can be distilled into intelligence, so that we can nullify the noise and find the root cause of any incident in a accelerated manner. It includes the predictive model that employs the artificial intelligence algorithms so that the accelerated root causes can contribute to our learning process, so that we could predict what potential failures could happen, predict what incident volumes can happen, predict what kind of capacity is needed ahead of time to and with that prediction, the final component of remediation, which will help us to become an autonomous operations kind of an organization for IT by orchestrating the capacity or facilitating the remediation with one click, or providing a virtual engineer that is there for you to constantly look at things and fix things so that your organization can drive towards zero outages. This is what we at GAVS are continuously developing and addressing in order to make organizations move towards a zero incident enterprises so that they could transform their organizations in a digitally to accomplish the goal of providing maximum customer satisfaction to both their internal users as well as their external users or external customers. With this, my presentation slideware for the webinar is done, and I'm going to hand it over back to you, Kerrie, for addressing questions and answers.
Well, thank you, Shri, for those insightful comments. It is now time for questions and answers. I'm going to remind everyone to type in your questions in the questions box. You will find that on the right-hand side of your screen. If you don't see the questions box, you can click on the icon ribbon. There's an orange arrow. If you click on there, you will be able to see the questions box. So please feel free to type your questions. And while we're waiting, Shri, for some of the questions to be entered, I have a question for you. In the fourth poll, we saw that customer experience was one of the most important things for digital transformation. How does the zero incident framework improve customer experience?
Um, in a very simple and straightforward answer, if you just imagine yourself using your internal applications that will never fail. Imagine yourself not calling your help desk and saying my email is not working. My SAP application where I have to enter the orders is not working. If with the zero outage incidents, we're basically providing that kind of experience to the users where outages will become history. And the constant thing, the application is slow, it's not working today, I don't know what's happening. If you eliminate this, look at what we could do for productivity and what we could do for you as a user of the internal applications or external applications. Provide the near ubiquitous presence and availability of whatever you want to do with the applications.
Fantastic. Okay, so I have a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is, tell us about some examples where Ziff is working and how is this different from Data Lake and Elastic, etc.
Excellent. Okay, now I'm not at liberty to reveal the names of our customers, but a couple of large manufacturing organizations have deployed Ziff and have seen a 90% reduction in the incident volumes and a turnaround time that has improved 60 to 70% in terms of addressing the issues that might potentially lead to outages. How does this compare with Elastic or Big Data Lake? Well, big two different aspects. Big data lakes, we have a big data lake ourselves in terms of where big data lake is where you're combining multiple sources of data. So with technologies like Hadoop and others, we're basically ingesting the data from multiple sources and creating our own mini lake where all of this monitored data. So one thing I want to emphasize here is the application of artificial intelligence and machine learning has been successful in industries when you identify a particular problem that you want to solve with those technologies. And in that case, we have chosen the IT operations and being able to provide that incident intelligence and advanced analytics for the intelligence, for the incidents. And in that aspect, when you look at what Elastic is an open source platform that you need to provide those learning algorithms yourselves beyond the security algorithms that are provided by Elastic. We are not just confined only to the security events, we are confined to every event that might cause an outage. And all of that is done pre-tested, pre-developed. Those machine supervised, unsupervised learnings are all combined to actually be part of the Zift platform. And that is how we differentiate ourselves significantly with what's out there. How quickly can you be productive and see results with the platform is a significant differentiator that we bring to the table.
Great, thank you. The next question is, how is App Ensure, and I'm sure you can also answer this for the whole Zift platform, how is it different from our competitors like App Dynamics and monitoring tools?
I again want to repeat a statement I made earlier on. IT operations is our focus. And being able to provide the solutions that address the IT operations without the intervention of the developers is the basic way that we are looking at providing these solutions. So since you asked about App Ensure basically looks at the applications, whether they're homegrown or purchased applications, without having to instrument the source and being able to observe it from a operating point of view, from an OS point of view. So again, being able to look at the applications and discover them out of the box from where the users are accessing them, and then being able to discover them and see how they're performing is how we differentiate ourselves. From App Dynamics and New Relic are great tools. You need them to perfect your code, but the perfect code does not mean it is going to operate perfectly when you move into production. Besides those, you need other eyes and ears to identify how your applications are performing once you move into production. And that's where App Ensure's solution component of Zift platform is going to help you accomplish that.
Great, thank you, Shri. Just a reminder, if you have a question, please type it in the question box. I have a couple more questions here, Shri. This one, we're going to jump back up to a high level, a very basic question. How do you define digital and its transformation?
Very interesting. As I said in my webinar, digital has come into existence the minute the digital computers have come into existence. Okay, so that digitalization is not something that happened in 2019 or 2018. Digitalization has been happening for a very long time. That having said that, what is this transformation that we are talking about? Again, I touched this point in my webinar. This transformation has been happening again as an evolution. And in this evolution, we only looked at bettering what we had. We were doing, constantly the evolution was, we did this way, we're going to better it. We did it this way, we're going to better it. But the transformation has become a revolution when the new concepts, you take any 2-year-old or 3-year-old today and give them an iPhone, they know how to swipe. Do you know 10 years ago, when I mean, before, not 10 years, whatever, whenever iPhone was introduced, before that, the swiping concept was not even there. Now you can't take away anybody who was born after iPhone was invented from the concept of swiping away. That is the transformation. That transformation is affecting us in all aspects of our human technology, human life. So digitalization the transformation, the difference is the pace of transformation has become so fast in the last 10 years that the customer experience and what we are experiencing with what we have today. Just imagine in 1994, a cell phone weighed about 5 pounds and we had to carry it in a bag around. To today, where, as I mentioned, your smartphone has millions of times more power than what NASA had in 1969. So that is the transformation.
So Shri, you weren't far off on when the iPhone was launched. It was actually launched 12 years ago in 2007
Ah,
in the US and internationally in 2008. So you were very close on that.
10 years. See what a difference
Yeah.
it makes.
Yeah, amazing. It feels like so much longer than that.
Yeah.
And I think your comment about digital's been around for a long time is very true. I think the digital world and the need to go digital and digital transformation is just a new way to talk about what's happened exponentially with technology.
Mm-hmm.
And modernly architected technology, as you said in your presentation, is so much different than traditional technology.
Oh.
So it's easy to fall into the trap of digital's been around for a long time, but actually there are new architectures that allow businesses to go much faster than in the past.
I have a couple of questions here that I don't know whether you've seen them, Kerrie. So I'm just going to wait for you to get to them.
Yeah, actually there are a few more questions. So what is the average time frame to implement ZIF?
Well, the total implementation is, of course, in a phased manner. I would say 4 to 8 weeks is a good time for us to implement and see the results of all the components of ZIP. Some aspects of them will start providing information right away, like discovery part of it. And when you actually move to the other corner of the arc, the learning will take, of course, as we all know, learning is not an instantaneous thing. It's a going on thing, and you perfect your learning as you move forward. So the spectrum of being able to see the end-to-end results of the entire platform, I would give it 4 to 8 weeks for you to actually establish the value proposition of the platform.
Okay, another question. How do you think the healthcare industry ranks among other industries on their adaptability with this?
Poorly. Okay. Not just because they don't have innovators in IT departments of healthcare industry, but it is the weight of the regulation that brings down the uh, pace at which they can adopt. But having said that, I'm amazed. Today you actually can see how machine autonomy is helping the health records to move from one to another place without any human intervention. How virtually delivered applications, virtually delivered desktops, or helping the doctors even do diagnosis and sometimes help surgical procedures remotely. So the virtualization in terms of delivery of the applications is a huge thing that the health industry has adopted, that is helping them to move into accepting, to delivering the continuous delivery part of it. Now the customer experience part of it needs a little bit of fine tuning, and they're getting there, and they're adopting technologies like ZIF to get them there.
Very good, thank you. I'm going to rephrase this question a little bit. How does the organization need to change for a successful transformation?
Well, when you saw the poll results, many of them blame that our leadership does not lack the visibility to see the digital transformation, which is not all the time the true, because it is not the acceptance of. I'm going to give it 1 second. If you hear birds chirping, it is my clock in the background. Um, it is basically not knowing where to start. Okay, no. So the digital transformation doesn't have to be a huge project that basically changes the entire organization. It could start small, within certain segments of the organization and develop it. So the question in terms of the how organization for successful transformation, as I said, we need to first understand what we want to change. If we don't know what we want to change, we can't change it, right? So that's where the journey starts for any successful implementation of digital transformation.
Ah, that is very true. Next question. Isn't zero outages impossible?
Zero outages is impossible, but repetitive zero outages is possible, eliminating them. So again, if you can eliminate outages that are repetitive in case, you can focus on the ones and you can start predicting on them. That's where this artificial intelligence and machine learning comes into picture, is being able to predict. Even then, we might not be able to zero in all the outages, but at least if I know that my capacity is going to reach 90% tomorrow at 2 p.m., and if I don't take any action, the next 100 customers who are going to get onto my site are going to be denied, are going to experience a huge wait time. And if I have at least 1 hour ahead notice, wouldn't it be enough for me to kind of remediate it? Yes. So, yes, zero outages will never happen, but we can always strive towards getting there at least to 99%. And that is important for us to do this digital transformation happen.
Okay, we actually have a lot more questions that have now come in. So I'm probably going to have to pick and choose a little.
I see
Keeping
one.
customers.
Go ahead. Yeah.
You see one you want to answer, Sheree?
I saw one that said, "Where did she go to school?"
Yes.
I went to Drexel to get my master's at Drexel. So,
That was an easy one, right?
yes.
Hey, you want a hard one? When did digital transformation start?
Whenever the digital computers were invented, the minute the digital computers were invented, digital transformation started. Yes.
There you
19.
go. Good. Another question, keeping customer centricity in mind, if we keep making changes, upgrades to the application, aren't we giving way to more and new issues and incidents? How does Ziff address this?
Yes. Again, I'll go back. More new incidents are the ones that we have to focus on, not the repetitive incidents that are bogging us down. So if you can zero them in, the Ziff platform helps you to analyze and predict the trends, the patterns of the new incidents that might crop up that you can look at. I'm not promising that we will catch everything, but unless you start putting that in place and employing those advanced algorithms and machine learnings and predictive data analytics, you will never get there. You will always be, your list of trouble tickets is going to be increasing. And one of the things I've seen in many organizations is they basically turn off some of these alerts because it's noise. Who said it is noise? Oh, we thought it is noise. Nothing is noise unless you correlate and then find out what noise is.
Great. So here's a related question. How does Ziff predict it is an outage if it is previously done through app dynamics?
Well, you are now comparing from an app dynamics perspective. An outage is the application that you're looking at. Okay, that could be a component of application. Again, we ingest the data from app dynamics. We take the data from app dynamics into our learning curve. I told you one of the biggest differentiators with the Ziff platform is our ability to ingest the data from any monitoring tool that you might have. And we have connectors for hundreds and hundreds of these tools out there. And I can basically ingest that data and use that intelligence that an outage has been predicted or found out by app dynamics for this particular application under these circumstances, take the data that comes from app dynamics and also correlate that data with everything that I get from infrastructure and other places, correlate to see if there is anything that is related here that is dependent upon the infrastructure or other elements in the IT landscape, and then come to a learning which will help me in future to predict a potential outage.
Great, thank you, Sri. There's a second part to that question, and it's related to another question, so I'll ask them together. So the second part to that question was why AI ops? And the related question is, how does ZIF work?
Okay, why AI ops? Very simple answer to this question. Okay, the artificial intelligence is helping us with that compute power and analysis power and the amount of data that is coming in to be able to digest and make sense of the data. I can learn Italian by watching about 2,000 Italian movies continuously back to back and figuring out myself that these phrases mean this. Whereas when that is a human brain doing that, right? But if you take the same thing and look at the compute power that we have and the data storage power we have, that learning of Italian can be reduced to minutes from months and years that it would take for me as a human being. The power of artificial intelligence learning applied to operations is a direct result of the need to be able to ingest and digest the data coming from multiple sources to make learnings out of it. And that's why AI ops.
Excellent.
How does ZIF work? Miraculously. it, it takes a complete hour for me to give it a presentation and demo of ZIF. I would definitely encourage whoever asked that question to please contact us back so that we could arrange a demo and presentation for you.
So I think we have time for one more question, and there's like 4 questions left down near the bottom. I don't know if there's any that really jump out at you, Sri, that you want to answer.
What are the pitfalls of AI and machine learning? Too much of expectation is what is a big pitfall with AI ops or machine learning. People assume that because we say artificial intelligence and machine learning, that everything is going to be automated and jobs are going to be lost and nobody needs ever. No, that's not the case. That is absolutely not the case. We are shifting the level of intelligence that humans can participate to the next level with these algorithms and machine learning. But we are not eliminating the need. And that is one of the biggest pitfalls is just because your CIO or CEO thinks that AI and machine learning is going to solve all the problems, no, they don't. And setting the expectation is the biggest pitfall. And the second biggest pitfall is, where do you apply? It is, again, as I mentioned in my webinar, the successful applications of AI and machine learnings are when a problem has been clearly defined and addressed, like we are doing with ZIF. Identify that the incidents and alerts and alarms need to be correlated, and we need to learn from the pattern of those alerts and alarms so that we can identify potential outages and remediate them before they happen. A very specific use case. If you have a generic and general AI and machine learning cloud, then it won't work. You got to apply it to specific cases. Is there a way
Excellent.
to
Thank you, Sri.
last question before we are on the hour? Is there a way to monetize tickets instead of reducing them? Hey, if you have reduced your tickets from 100 to 50, haven't you monetized 50 tickets? We have, right?
Yeah, you actually have. That is very true.
Yeah. Well,
You
I
want to go
think,
to the very last slide, Sri?
yes, I will. I was just looking at the question. Sorry, Kerrie. Yes.
I'm keeping you on time.
Yes. So, well, Kerrie, we are on the last slide.
Thank you, Sri. So thank you everyone for your attendance. We'd ask you to please participate in the survey and feel free to kindly visit www.gavstech.com to learn more. There was also a question about will the presentation be available? You will be receiving an email where there will be a link to a replay of the webinar. So thank you, Sri, again for your awesome presentation.
Thank you, Kerrie. And zero is the new normal, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.